Wow. I hope that people are grasping the severity of what's happening in these videos that we're doing and talking about, highlighting articles that are describing not only one of the major catastrophes of a global food shortage for a variety of very strange weather patterns that may have multiple sources as to why those things are being brought into being. Everything from the potentiality of HARP and DARPA and actually, Lockheed Martin type of military weaponry that's not outside the scope of what is normal when you consider the military industrial complex having tools and technology as a weapon. That's not strange at all. That would be any mass murder, psychopath, tyrannical dictator's dream to have. And, God talked about how man would continue with this Tower of Babel type of scenario where nothing would be, um, stone would be unturned, that man would basically just destroy himself in an effort to play the role of God. And so God squashed that down way back in the book of Genesis. But now, where we are in space and time, is looking at what appears to be the unfolding of the book of Revelation, now at the other bookend of society and reality. And so not only do you have, potential issues happening with the sun that could be a part of a normal cycle, it could be in relationship to some type of Planet X scenario happening. It could be in relationship to the Lord saying, oh, you want to worship the sun? Well, we're going to create problems with that so that it's sort of self-evident that that is not your creator, the sun. There could be all kinds of reasons, but I definitely think that sabotage through human ingenuity is absolutely part and parcel of this. And that's not the only thing that you see is the food shortage on 7 different continents. We have been doing a litany of videos discussing this, looking at different articles, and so this will be the third now in the series. And I invite you to check out all my videos and check them out soon, because YouTube doesn't like the truth being exposed, so they just pull those down without notice. But anyhow, when you also consider the global contagion that they are creating by stealing the wealth out of the dollar, and by all sorts of evil practices, and they're basically showing that even though they're telling you the economy is great and dandy, everything's fine, in all reality, they are simply the rich, the Masons, the Kabbalists, um, the Jesuits. All those people are stealing your money right out from underneath you. And when you combine all of that together, you can kind of see how it looks very much like what Hebrews 10:25 says. Let me show you the scripture, as it's a pretty interesting scripture. If you've seen my videos, you know I'm a huge proponent of the Lord coming on a feast day, because that's what the feasts teach, and not this sense of imminent, anytime in terms of random. Imminent, yes, soon. I agree with that, soon. But this idea of random is not biblical. It's something that has been taught to us, and it's an error. Well, when you go into Hebrews 10:25, it says, not forsaking the assembling together of ourselves, as manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much more as you see the day approaching. And that day actually ought to be capped. In my Bible, it's capped. And it's always talking about that next feast coming up in order after Pentecost and at the end of the church age, called the Feast of Trumpets, that we've talked about so much. But what this tells you is that he's literally telling you you're going to see the day approaching. And so we've talked about in this Justin Bieber and Sherham video, I Don't Care, that they're making fun of the food loss in the food crop. And they also have themes. See, there's the corn hiding. Why is it hiding? Because some type of human ingenuity is playing with your food source and taking it away is what's happening. And so, the earth strikes back, 10 signs that nature has turned against humanity. And we'll probably get to that in a moment. But I want to go back and look at this article that we've been dealing with over at the mostimportantnews.com. And it's looking at the map that shows devastating crop losses. I didn't get to finish this article, but it was showing you how on every continent, and look at how many are on America. So many. In North America, there's just an oddity happening with the food, and then you throw in the money too, and it's like you kind of have to be blind and dumb to not see that we're being set up, especially with all the other signs and convergence. We're being set up for the Lord to fulfill that Feast of Trumpets. Will it be this year? I don't know, but I also don't think that we can hold out under these conditions until next September 2020 either. Now, that's all subjective at this point. Either it will happen this year or it will not. You're told to be ready by rebirth, and you're told to be watching. And these are definitely conditions where you see the noose tightening around the throat. It says it's becoming quite clear that food prices are going to rise substantially, and that the world is going to produce a whole lot less food than it normally does this year. And now we're talking about this year. We're talking about 2019. We're talking about what's happening right now in front of you. It says, as I noted earlier, we have a tough time feeding everyone on the planet, even during ideal conditions. Sadly, this even includes the United States. Well, also, when you have the very evil people who are in control of the money and they're making the dollar less and less, yes, I do agree that it's hard for people to have enough money to buy enough food. I just don't think that there's a shortage until recently of having enough food to go around. But when you have people in positions of power fiddling with everybody having access to it, that becomes a problem. And now we're starting to see this scenario of actual food shortage happening in 2019, something that is very alien from us. We have never seen anything like this in the entire history of the United States of America. In fact, it's not just older Americans who are already suffering from hunger and malnourishment, with this 2017 story at Feeding America reporting that more than 41 million Americans were suffering from hunger daily, including more than 13 million children, with this National Geographic story reporting that 1 out of 6 Americans are not eating enough. Right, and that has probably been a result of being able to buy less food with your money because of what these evil, tyrannical, nut job people are doing to your monies, such as the 2008 crisis, when they took a whole ton of money and gave it to the banks and gave it to the wealthy after making a variety of bad choices. And it's just gotten worse in the last 11 years. And they're getting ready to do quantitative easing 4 that the money GPS has been talking about. So you kind of have those two big pieces fitting together that make them unique and a never before seen situation is what I'm trying to tell you. It says here, so what will it look like if food global production drops 10% or 20% or even more? So, we really don't need this on top of the financial crisis, but now they're married together, and so they're going to make a bad situation 15 times worse, okay? We've never had to deal with this in the modern times. Meanwhile, the population of the planet has grown from 1.6 billion in 1900 to 7.5 billion today. Right, and if we didn't have greedy, evil, sinful people who rejected Jesus Christ, then we would have a much more even playing field where, under normal circumstances, enough food is grown and then it can be spread out to everybody. But that's not what we have. We have evil people who want to hoard all the resources. They want to hoard all the money. They want to hoard all the food. They want to go put it in their Forbes magazine billion-dollar bunkers under the earth, because they are all about depopulation. And that's why they talk about that at the UN. And that's why you have the Noahide coming. And that's why you have the algorithms going through and stealing all the videos of all the people, the good people that are trying to warn you that Noahide is coming. Because when you have these other pieces of the puzzle that we're talking about, the food shortage, the financial Armageddon that they're planning, really that next piece of the puzzle that Satan uses wisely is to force the worship of what he wants you to worship and takes away your ability to believe in Jesus Christ for those people who will be here during that time period. And then it's off with your heads, says their own website. And I try to do videos as quickly as I can, but they rip them down and steal them. But you should know that there's definitely decapitation for Jesus Christ worship on the menu, so to speak. So much information, so little time to share it in. We've entered the perfect storm, the time of the perfect storm, and we're going to start to witness things happen that many people would consider unimaginable. And yet, how kind was God to take John, who had been pushed off into the island of Patmos to die alone in 95 AD, and for him to give us the revelation, the only one of the apostles that was alive at the time, and to give us this entire book of intelligence to let us know what would be happening. And here we are in 2019 watching the very events occur. I truly hope things will not be as bad as some of the experts are suggesting, but as far as crop failures are concerned, we don't have to speculate. These are happening right now all over the planet. So really highlight that in your mind right now. It's not something that's coming, it's something that's here all over the planet. And that means that global food supplies are going to get tighter and tighter in the months ahead. Meaning, so what you paid for an item before when it was an abundant availability to everybody is now going to shoot the prices through the roof, and less people are going to have access to that. And that goes very much along with what we see here in Scripture when he says, as you see the day approaching. And so one of the icons of my channel is Noah and the ark, and Jesus is written on the ark because Jesus is our ark today. Now let's go, I want to show you this other article. So this also was dated June 30th. So this is all happening in the summertime, and this is a very quick walk until you get to Tishri 1 and you get to the Feast of Trumpets, the autumn set of feasts that God fulfills. That is a concern because every autumn we should be very concerned about if the Lord is going to fulfill that feast, to bring forth that rapture for the true church and cut off the fake church along with the other unbelievers. That's going to happen. This highlights the amazing, another added issue to this whole thing. According to a recent survey of U.S. beekeepers, an astounding 37% of all honeybee colonies were lost over the winter. Almost 40%. Wow. That's 4 in 10 bees. I think they say third bite of food or something like that was from something that was pollinated by the honeybees. Oh, wow. You're really starting to see this problem develop into a multifaceted issue. Every year since 2006, the University of Maryland's nonprofit Bee Informed Partnership conducts an annual survey. They want to know how many bee colonies were lost over the course of the year. And the 2018 to 19 survey asked almost 5,000 beekeepers to report how many colonies they lost, and the preliminary results of the survey suggest things aren't looking good. So we're seeing a compound problem of more than over 300,000 managed bee colonies in the survey. Almost 40% were lost over the winter. This represents the largest die-off since the survey began, and a full 7% higher than the previous year. Having fewer honeybees is more than just an ecological problem, it is an economic one. Every year, honeybees contribute a nearly $20 billion value to the U.S. crop production. Of course, we don't have to look too far to find the culprit. We are the ones killing off the bees. Well, it's the chemtrails, more than likely, since that's the new kid on the block. Wow, the process that we are seeing setting the stage for an unprecedented ecological disaster because of all the bees suddenly vanish. Human civilization would not last much longer.